Hi, I'm Sleepy, and on my channel, I take a look at the Smash Ultimate roster and redesign movesets to fit with their games. I decided to redesign every character though, so I'll have to play every game they appear in. That's where my first roadblock comes in. I've never played a Fire Emblem game, which is a problem because there's more than a few Fire Emblem characters. So, begrudgingly, I decided to play through the Fire Emblem series, and surprisingly, had a fantastic time playing through. I went into it with a bias against Fire Emblem and came out with a better understanding of their series and the way they were designed in Smash. So what makes Fire Emblem so great? Well, that's what I wanted to share with you guys, and hopefully convince some of you to play one of the Fire Emblem games. My first experience with the series begins with Marth, because he's the reason I'm playing this game at all. The first game was too frustrating and archaic, so I went with the sequel and SNES remake, Fire Emblem, Mystery of the Emblem. I didn't have time to beat every game in the series, but I decided to play Mystery of the Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War, Binding Blade, and Awakening. Sampling these games gives you a pretty good idea of what the series is like. First of all, this is a strategy game, a genre I have very little experience with. Its turn-based movement is like chess, but the super slick pixel animations feel very video gamey. It combines RPG elements with chess to create a fun gameplay formula that's best described as chess, but when I lose a piece I throw the board and start over. And that's because in Fire Emblem, death is very real and very impactful. Whether you're getting killed or doing the killing, death feels like it matters. It's important to stress how well done death is in the series, because not only are you upset at every character that dies, but you celebrate every enemy you can kill. It's not a standard RPG where spamming A and defeating a generic random encounter will leave you completely indifferent to the battle you just won. No, killing units takes thought, and it's satisfying as heck, especially when you get a critical hit. Man, the critical hits in these games are brutal. Guess how much damage it does? 1.5? 2 times even? Nope. Critical hits are 3 times stronger. It's so over the top. Here's my unit here. He has 33 health. He's fighting some jobber who only does 11 damage. Easy. Oops, he got a crit, so it does 33 damage and instantly kills him. Bye-bye. Like, what? You can't underestimate anyone, ever, because they might randomly decapitate you. By the way, if that guy did 33 damage and could reliably one-shot me, a crit would do 99 damage. That's a bit much. And it's like that in almost all the Fire Emblem games. But for now, I'm mostly talking about the SNES Fire Emblem. If you're not really a fan of strategy games already, play an easier one like Awakening. That one is streamlined for new players, but still offers challenge and Fire Emblem fun. The problem with those games, though, is that you don't play as Marth, aka the coolest prince since the artist formerly known as Prince. Marth is forced to flee his homeland from a young age. He's taken care of on a remote island and looked after until he can fight. Marth leaves his little island and close to single-handedly crushes a band of pirates. Then he wanders around recruiting young men and kicking ass. Sometimes you can even convince your enemies that the Shadow Dragon Medius blows chunks and they should join your team instead. Eventually you have a homemade army with Marth at the front. You meet plenty of characters along the way with silly names like Cord, Drog, and Rickard, most of which kinda suck. But it's okay, because you have Marth. He really doesn't suck, especially early game. What makes Marth so good? This happens like every turn with him. He kinda better be good though, because if he dies, you're forced to start the match over again. In a game like Binding Blade, where the main character Roy totally sucks, it feels more like you're protecting a helpless king instead of fighting an army. A bit too similar to chess, they should probably sue. Next thing we can talk about is the story, and you know, it's not bad. Mostly. But it's also not winning any Oscars. It does the job and makes Marth feel like a real character, and from what I've read, some of the games have some actual complex stories to them if that's what you're into. And although I don't know the story of every Fire Emblem game, I can safely say that I'm personally not playing these games for the plot. I'm playing for the plots. Which is a good opportunity to talk about one of the series' strongest aspects besides gameplay, the characters. At first, many of them are pretty awful in combat because they were kind of designed to die and be replaced by better units. However, that problem is only present in early Fire Emblem. In later games, you are given vast amounts of freedom to customize your team however you want. And by the way, it's not just cosmetic. Contrary to how Smash represents Fire Emblem, the games are filled with different classes and weapons. There's magic too. Not everyone is a pretty anime swordsman. There's a few pretty mage boys around. This variety leads to all types of challenge runs you can do, like a mage-only run, or a low-tier run where you purposely use the worst units you can find, or a sacrifice run where you're forced to kill at least one character every chapter in order to advance. This can lead to some heart-wrenching moments because it's not hard to get attached to your units. They have dreams, loved ones, and backstories that are at risk of being destroyed when that character dies in battle. Now, I may not have gotten to know Bantu very well. Heck, I don't even know his favorite soup. But if anything happened to Bantu, I would kill everyone on the map and then myself, because I love Bantu. He goes shopping for me. Shop, shop. Another one, George. George doesn't have a personality. In fact, I don't remember if he even has any dialogue. But I love this guy. He was a reliable archer that shot so many arrows for me that I started giving him my own characteristics. So now George is this super cool slick guy that makes one-liners before getting a crit. And that was fun! The early Fire Emblems are a lot more like role-playing games. But if you're the type that scoffs at the idea of using your imagination, then you'd probably enjoy the newer games more. The newer games flesh out characters better and give you more insight on them with support conversations. These are genuinely good characters that you don't have to make into good characters. And as I always say, interesting characters should live in an interesting world, and Fire Emblem has built one. It's not groundbreaking, but it's detailed and precise. You like fantasy? Because if you like fantasy, you'll like Fire Emblem. There's knights, kings, castles, swords, dragons, curses, ladies, lords, betrayal, death, and so much more! A staple that comes with the genre is needlessly silly names everywhere that you have to learn or else the story makes no sense. Like an Ike's game where humans called the Bjorks live next to their neighbors, the Lgurs, which are basically furries that can turn into their persona on a full moon, and they don't like each other, so it's up to Ike to teach them that racism is not cool. And also, can we kill this dickhead, please and thank you? The games are very replayable, and I find myself wanting to try the same game or chapter again and play it in a different way. Those kind of games were always the best to me. The relatively short ones that can be replayed a lot. I even played Marth's game twice. What else is there to say? It's fun. And if you've got a poor opinion of Fire Emblem even still, I think you should try it. You might find enjoyment in a genre you didn't know you liked. And if you become a fan of the series, then it'll hurt significantly less when Sakurai ends the second fighter pass with another Fire Emblem character. Good night.